Greetings fellow Mist Wanderers, my name is Steve Morgan and this is DM of the Mists, covering all things Curse of Strahd and Ravenloft. I'm going to be putting this video out around Christmas, and I still wanted to do videos around Christmas, but I didn't want to do any sort of big, important, in-depth videos around Christmas, just in case people are busy with Christmas stuff and haven't got the time to watch it. So I appreciate as well, if you're watching this like next year in the middle of July, and it's hot and sunny, it seems a bit weird being like, here's my Christmas video. A few years ago, I saw an infographic someone made on the Curse of Strahd subreddit. They basically did a poll asking Curse of Strahd DMs questions of what happened in your campaign. It's by Sevastopol Station. So thank you to Sevastopol for going to the efforts of doing this. I think I saw a recent comment on there that said that they might do an updated version, so I guess we'll see that in the future. That'd be quite cool. And what I wanted to do, I've looked at it a couple of times over the years. So when I first saw it years ago, and I think I looked at it again recently, and I wanted to just do a reaction video where I kind of go through it bit by bit and give my thoughts on, yeah, that makes sense, or well, how did that happen with that group? So that's what this video is about. I'm just going to run through it all and give my thoughts. I've got it open on a screen over here, so I'll probably mostly just be looking in this direction. There's a sort of small intro written by Mordenkainen. Part 1, out of game. The majority of Curse of Strahd campaigns ran for 6 to 18 months. And there's some pie charts there. Mine was nearly 2 years. Just over 18 months, I think. So it would be in the 2 to 4 year bracket, but only by a little. The average campaign entertained 5 players, although 6 groups trudged through with 2 or less players. Wow. Mine was 5, but then we got a 6th player. Just below 30% of all groups had their stories expanded beyond the module. 4.8% of players tied into another official module. 21.4% continued on, came from a homebrew setting. Only 0.6 continued on to the other classic demi-planes of Dread. That's surprising. Although, when did this come out? So this was January 2020. So this was before Van Richten's guide came out, so I'd be curious to see what those numbers are now. And I know that not a huge amount of Curse of Strahd DMs continue on with something else like a wider Ravenloft campaign like I've done, but I appreciate that if you did back then, if you didn't have access to Van Richten's guide, the idea of doing it might have been less, I don't want to say appealing, just maybe the thought of doing it might have been harder because it hadn't been updated to 5th edition at that point. Around 75.5% of players braved Death House at level 1, so that's 3 out of 4 Curse of Strahd campaigns start with Death House, makes sense. Mine didn't, because we did Lost Mine of Pandalva first, and they carried on from that. Supplemental materials. 87.1% of people used Curse of Strahd subreddit, 58-ish% Mandimod, 40-ish% Dragna Carta. I reckon that'd be different now, because I think probably around that time Dragna Carta was fairly new. I think more people are using Dragna Carta and Curse of Strahd Reloaded or re-reloaded these days. What levels did the PC start and end at? Obviously the vast majority started at either level 1 or level 3, depending on whether they did Death House or not. Most ended around level 10, but there are some that went beyond. I think that's kind of common. Most popular classes for the module were the Cleric, Paladin and Rogue respectively. Only 26.3% of campaigns hosted a Monk. I didn't have a Monk in my group. I would love to play a Monk one day. Never played a Monk. What classes entered Broria? Aha, here we go. So yeah, Cleric, followed by Paladin, followed by Rogue. Artificer was low, as was Bloodhunter, but that's because they're not the sort of Player's Handbook ones. But yeah, Monk is significantly lower, followed by what looks like Sorcerer, and then Barbarian. It's interesting, I thought that both of those would be higher. Here we go. What percentage of PCs died on their way through? 7.4% of journeys into Broria resulted in a TPK. 20-ish% was 0%. That was the case with me. None of my PCs died, sadly, although quite a few close calls. And then the majority of people were 20 to 40%. So that's probably like, 1 or 2 members out of a group of 5. To what did they die to? The module's top killers are 57% Strahd, 24% Amber Temple, 21-ish% by their own party. Oh. That PvP or something else? Hopefully not PvP. 15% at Yester Hill, 14% Old Bone Grinder, 14-ish% at Death House. Now here we go, some comments from people. More unique ways to die in Barovia. Falling from the Heart of Sorrow Tower. My players fell from that tower quite a few times and took a lot of damage. Resurrected Argynvost, and that resulted in killing them? What are the general locations of the 3 artifacts? So over 50% of campaigns had one in the Amber Temple, then followed by Castle Ravenloft, Vallaki, Argynvost, Holt, Krezk, Berez, and so on and so on. I can think it drops off at that point. 0.3% people had an item in Death House. How does that work? Strahd's fated enemy. Most popular, 22-ish, 23% was Esmeralda, followed by Rudolf van Richten, the Mad Mage, nobody, and then a tie between Zelika and Godfrey. The least popular choice was a 4-way tie between Clovin, Sir Klutz, Parrywimple, and Stella Wachter. Yeah, none of that's surprising. Part 3, plot. Who lived and who died in terms of NPCs? Babala Saga was the most likely to be killed, 68-ish%. Then Baron of Vallaki, then Isaac or Ezek, Rahadin, Doru, and so on and so on. Understandably, Madame Eva is uncontested as the most consistent survivor of the campaign, and Babala Saga is the biggest loser. Still though, 2% of campaigns found Madame Eva killed. That's really surprising actually. And some of the other least likelies were the Wolf Hunters in Vallaki, Exothanther, and the Mad Mage. How many players took on a Dark Pact with a Dark Power at the Amber Temple? 6.1% went all in. Did Madame Eva read the party's fortunes? 98-99% yes. Did you ultimately restore the Order of the Silver Dragon at Argynvost? I assume this means lighting the beacon. About 50-50 split there. Dollhouse. Was Isaac's reaction to Irina revealed? 25% yes. That was revealed in my campaign. Blazing Sun. How long after the PCs arrived did the Vallaki fall into chaos? 1 day or less. For most people it's a few days. I think mine was the same. Who did you side with in Vallaki? Nobody but yourself was highest. Yeah, fair. Followed by Keepers of the Feather, and then there's a tie between Fiona Wachter and St. Andros. Probably the people at the church like Father Lucian and that. And then there's tiny mentions for Blinsky and the Baron. Did you save the Wizard of Wines? 80+% of people, yes. Did you return Garuda to her mother? 20-ish% of people, yes, but mostly no. That makes sense, given that she's found out about very early on, and she's kind of all the way in the castle. I think my players saw her at the dinner, and were just like, oh, okay, we just leave her there. Did you let the abbot continue his reign above Krezk? 60% yes. No, my group didn't like him and killed him. Did you help Luvash locate Arabelle? 64% yes. My group did this. Did you resurrect Petrina Velikovna? Nearly 20% of people, yes. Mine did, but it was not during the events of Curse of Strahd. It was part of our post-Curse of Strahd wider Ravenloft game. Father and son, Doru and Donovich's fates. In most campaigns, both are dead. Then followed by Doru dead, Donovich lives. Or Doru is undead, Donovich is alive, so presumably they just left the situation alone. And a few small mentions to Doru escaped, Donovich dead, and Doru restored. In the end, who ended up leading the town of Vallaki? 26% Lady Wachter, which was the case in my game. 14% the Baron continued. 13-ish% Vallaki was destroyed or abandoned. 11-ish% a player. And there's a whole bunch of percentages that are lower than that for Ismark, the Martikovs, the Baroness, all the way down to Vasily von Holtz. And in all realities, the following characters led Vallaki in only one campaign. Bluto? Is that the fisherman? Blinsky, Lady Wachter's sons, Father Lucian, the Knight Mother Cult, or is it Mother Knight? Or Isaac. And my favourite, or the author's favourite, the person who made the infographic, the players nominated a random maid to run things. They call her Mayor Maid. The Fated Girl. What was the final fate of Irina Kolyana? In 37% of campaigns, she survived. 28-ish%, she did the whole Krezk pool thing. 23%, same fate as Tatiana and died before Strahd could reach her. 11-ish%, Strahd succeeded, Irina became his vampiric bride. And in one campaign, Irina became the Dark Lord of her own demi-plane of dread. Oh my gosh, I want to know more about that, please. In another campaign, and I quote, they literally do not know, end quote, what happened to her. Brilliant. The Curse of Strahd von Zorowicz, and now we come to the man of the hour, the devil who haunts dreams because he cannot escape his own. What was the final fate of Strahd? Nearly 80% he was slain, and although that 80% is split in half, 50% of them did the whole vampire thing. and broke the pact. And then the other 50% was the off Strahd, but it was rules as written. He's gone now, but not forever. 11-ish% of timelines end with Strahd vanquishing his foes, remaining unchallenged on his ancient throne. Oh, and in 3% of campaigns, Strahd escaped Barovia to tear the multiverse apart. I like that. I'm considering that for my Strahd Returns moment when my players have finished this current arc of the campaign they're doing. Oh, and in 1-ish% of campaigns, the Dark Lord was reclaimed by humanity. So they cured the Curse of Strahd, I guess. Miscellaneous. How did the DM best portray Strahd? 36% classic charming vampire, 28-ish% a dangerous grave and demigod-like warlord, 18-ish% tragic, almost Shakespearean. That all sounds good. And some more unique answers at rapid fire. I won't say that one's swearing. I try and avoid swearing in my videos. Incel, but classy. Chessmaster, Southern gentleman, 80s action movie villain, abusive relationship gaslighter, obsessive creep, incel, see I Strahd, or like a robotic stat block. How many sessions did it take the party to traverse and complete Curse of Strahd? Oh, this is just Castle Ravenloft. 3 is the most popular answer, but it goes all the way from like 1 to 6. Our sessions are shorter, 2.5 hours. We were probably more like 7 or 8, but that includes, I probably wasn't that. It's probably like 5 or 6. But that includes exploring most of the castle and then the battle with Strahd as well. And the battle with Strahd was quite the epic. What, in your opinion, was the deadliest part of Barovia? The top answers were the Amber Temple, that's 35-ish%, Castle Ravenloft, All Bone Grinder, Death House, and the Ruins of Berez. And finally, what is one last thing you'd like to uniquely say about Curse of Strahd or your journey through Curse of Strahd? I'm going to just quote some of these. A guy who joined late played Irina as a barbarian. Nice. By the time he defeated Strahd, half the party shifted towards evil and took his place as Dark Lords of Barovia. Nice. Player died at level 1 fighting a werewolf. That's harsh. Instead of pursuing a weakened Strahd, my players dragged the giant dragon skull 8 hours down the road. You know, you do you, I guess. Blinsky's the best thing in the game. Correct. One of the best NPCs. I agree. Ooh, also do not run Death House. I don't have opinions about this because I've never actually run Death House. Shock horror. I know that's a shocking confession. Because we did the whole Lost Mine of Fandalva thing, you know, it didn't make sense to do Death House when they were already like level 5. Fudge the cards are better storytelling. If people know my videos, random straight out of the book is bad. I'm not a big fan of fudging it. I have an in-between solution, which I'm not going to advertise for the millionth time. Life clerics turn a lot of the game into easy mode. I don't know, we didn't have a cleric, but I can see that in the case. Oh gosh, some of these are, I'm skipping a bunch of these. Some of these are interesting and weird. You can read them for yourself if you like. I'll include a link in the description. Our fighter snuck into Victor's room before the party, got suggested, and basically left to go drink at the inn while the rest of us almost died fighting the level 9 invisible wizard in a small enclosed space. I'm not bitter, what are you talking about? The rogue/warlock powder kegged Ravenloft to the ground. I'd love to know a bit more about that because I can't see that being an easy thing to do. And what a lovely one to end on. Best adventure I ever DM'd. I think that's probably the case with me as well, but I've only DM'd like 3 adventures. Although I am really enjoying the Ravenloft campaign. Dare I say probably more than I enjoyed Curse of Strahd. Thank you, and it ends by saying thank you to Laura and Tracy Hickman and to Wizards of the Coast. May the curse prolong itself into eternity. Nice. Cool. What do you think? Did any of those jump out at you and surprise you? Like, what happened in your games? Or is it similar to what's described there? Any sort of weird, interesting things that happened or things that were completely different to what the, I guess, majority of people in this poll had happen? Leave some comments. As I record this, I'll do some of the upcoming videos bit now. As I put this out, it's pretty much Christmas time. In January, I want to do a big push on on all my videos, not just the Curse of Strahd ones, the Ravenloft ones as well. On the Curse of Strahd front, I think I want to do all about Strahd. You know, I've already done a video about his combat tactics, but a video that talks about resources for him and how to roleplay him. I might also do a video where I compare different stat blocks besides Raw, so things like the Dragon Cartha 3-phase Strahd and the famous one on DM skill beside challenge rate in 27. One of my commenters, someone commented on one of my videos, recently put out a action-oriented monster Strahd, which if you're familiar with Matt Colville and his stat block tweaking is kind of in line with that. I should really be doing a 2024 rules, you know, how to run Curse of Strahd with 2024 rules. Watch out for these things. Here are how the monsters are different. Watch out for these spells, including one in particular. If you know, you know. things like that, the differences in classes, etc. And we'll leave it there. If you're watching this as this goes out, Merry Christmas, and I'll see you soon. Thank you, Mr. Wanderers.